My name is Nathan Cameron. I'm the National Beverage Manager for Prime Restaurant. Prime Restaurant's where we have 4 key brands, about 175 restaurants in total. Today we're sitting in one of our Finn McCool's in Toronto. What makes you a great beer bar? That's a great question. It probably starts in the back, draft systems. Not everybody has to be a draft technician, but I think we spend a lot of time on staff training and understanding that the beer at the right temperature, the proper pressure, and allowing our team members to sort of understand how things are supposed to work so that they can stick handle and navigate any problems that we might have. So after the pieces in the back are sound, I would have to say training and product knowledge is definitely our strong suit. We actually, all of our managers and bartenders each year graduate from a program called Prud'homme, which is named after the first Canadian brewer on record, Louis Prud'homme, which gives our staff a lot of confidence to come out and really sort of engage our audience and our guest base. So product knowledge without question is probably even more so the most important point. I would say outside of that, it's important that when you walk into an environment that all the team members, the bartenders, the managers, the entire team on the floor are really taking time to engage with the guests and really sort of taking them through the experience and be able to ask questions and suggest favorites, and so that it really feels like a beer culture, and I think that really helps with the total experience. Well, I guess for us, what we've seen is a great balance between equitable brands, brands that people can recognize, breweries that they can recognize, and so you've got some mainstream brands, and I think a balance to discovery-based brands, brands that are new, brands that will drive trial. Obviously, the craft movement in the last 4 or 5 years, you sort of had for a while there a mixology and a wine resurgence, and now craft beer is really allowed to re-engage people through savvy packaging, small brewers making really, really great flavored and different styled beer, which has really allowed non-beer drinkers and beer drinkers alike to sort of re-engage in beer. When should you send a beer back? Well, I guess there's lots. You'd like to say dirty glass. Glass that has unfamiliar aromas, could be rinsing agent, could be chemicals, could be an off flavor in a beer that is usually, and I guess commonly found in beers that you may have a keg hooked up for a little too long. Beers that don't have carbonation or a retaining head, so aesthetically they don't look and feel right. And then beers that obviously have off flavors, right? We have diacetyl and all these sorts of terms that we try to train our team members on and to relate with guests, and we give them lots of analogies like wet cardboard and movie popcorn and things of that nature to help them get there. But at the end of the day, we're trying to enhance the guest experience, so any beer that you're not happy with, any beer that maybe you didn't like, and we can try to replace it for you and give you something to give you a better experience. Well, the Perfect Pint, I guess, was probably made famous on 2 fronts for our team members, Stella and the 9 steps that they practice, and then anything nitrogenous, you know, with Guinness leading the charge on their 2-step pour, and the proper amount of time you leave to settle. I think that, so yes, a perfect pour means several things at the top, making sure that, you know, the glass is clean and dry, making sure that the faucet doesn't come in contact with the beer, making sure that the glass is on the correct angle, making sure that, you know, after you're finished your perfect pour on a 45, when you bring it down, unless it's a different style beer, you want to make sure that, you know, no beer comes out of the faucet, contaminates and breaks the head on the top, creating a bad aesthetic. And I think with bottles, you know, there could be sediment in something that's bottle conditioned or a wheat beer, so you might want to swirl that and gently turn it before you pour it. And really, everything after that, there's lots of rituals that we practice, of course, but there's always a lot of personal taste and subjectivity to that. So we let our team members have a lot of fun with it. But of course, yes, it matters by style. There are some perfect techniques to practice, and I think those things take you a long way. Hot trends in Canadian craft beer. Well, the craft segment, I think you could almost put anything on at this point, and as long as your staff are well trained on it, you told a great story, I think it would do well for us. There's probably 3 styles that stand out. Front of the line's got to be Indian Pale Ales, only because there's such a range of IPAs. We've done a due diligence this year to try to educate our guests on international bitterness units and walk them up the IBU from sort of the low 30s all the way up to the doubles and imperials in the 90s and plus, and sort of having some fun with the guests on how hoppy and bitter you like your beer. At the end of the day, you want it to be well balanced and drinkable, and so there's a lot of different styles out there, West Coast IPAs, British IPAs, so I think that guests are having a lot of fun with that range, so I think IPAs are number 1. Second and third would be a toss-up between pale ales and ciders. Even though ciders, I guess, aren't traditionally lumped together, I would say that especially in Ontario, whether it be at the LCBO or your favorite pub, ciders, be it dry, semi-sweet, sweet, or flavored, there's something there for everyone. And beer cocktails being a new craze, as a sidebar here, ciders are a great suspension. And I think you're attracting a lot of non-beer drinkers there, so ciders are there. Pale ales are great because pale ales, although retain some of that light hoppiness, have a much better depth of flavor than some of the more sessionable lager, pilsners, things like that would people typically drink in the summer. And you've got lots of caramels and malt flavors that do have depth of flavor, but are yet sessionable to sit down and have 3 or 4 of these in one experience or one occasion. So for us, those would be the top 3, although I would say it's based on occasion and based on seasonality. And there's some great luxury sipping beers and great fall harvest beers that you may drink less of but enjoy more and typically have a stronger alcohol content. And so those are really starting to be followed and looked at too for us.
So this is a really interesting beer. This is brand new to market. This is a mid-50s IBU IPA here from Toronto area called Hops and Robbers. And it's got just a fabulous aroma. It's got like a Centennial Cascade hop balance, so you get lots of grapefruit, but some nice astringency down the sides of your throat. It's got a fantastic auburn red color, very refreshing. But it's just an unbelievable story about a gentleman here from Toronto who started his own agency, and I think this brand is about 2 days old and they expect it to do fantastic things. So, Hops and Robbers.